And now it's time for me to bring forward Roger Davis to provide his lesson on CUC in story form. Roger, and some background. Roger and Gail joined RUMC in 1982 when he was transferred here with IBM. When he retired in 1991, Malone Dotson, the current minister, asked Roger to join the staff of RUMC to be the director of evangelism, which he did for 10 years until 1992. With Gail also joining the staff and helping with evangelism. I think Malone thought Roger could use some help, so he brought Gail on.
Lots of help.
Yeah. Let's see. When Roger and I first came to CUC, it was Roger and I who drove us around, Roger and Gail, who drove Garland and I around Roswell, showing us all of what RUMC was doing in the community and where their activities were. Just some wonderful, wonderful orientation to RUMC and to the community. They have been an invaluable part of RUMC and CUC since both joining in 1982. And one other thing, and I think I've witnessed this, Roger and Gail are outstanding pickleball players.
Yeah.
Rumors are they may be senior champions, at least of, no, not yet. Okay, but you're working on it. But they do play a lot of pickleball, and challenge anyone in the class to take them on. Anyone, right? Okay. Okay. Roger, all yours.
I'm ready.
Okay, good.
Well, I got a call earlier this week from Don McNew, and he said that Alan Kennedy, who was scheduled to be here today, had COVID, as did his wife, Marcia. And he asked if I had a lesson in my back pocket. And I said, well, Don, do you remember the lesson I did about the CUC perspective? There was a long hesitation. He says, no, I don't remember that. I said, good, nobody else will either. And it bears repeating because we have so many new people. So I'm going to give you a little perspective of CUC this morning. Now, do you know the difference between the introduction of a northern fairy tale and a southern fairy tale? A northern fairy tale begins once upon a time, and a southern fairy tale begins, y'all ain't never gonna believe this. So,
and bless your heart.
And yeah, while you're at it. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging here about CUC, because God should get all the credit for what CUC has done over the years and where it is now. He used a lot of people. He used a lot of instances. He used a lot of teachers. He used a lot of mission trips. So God gets the credit for where CUC is today. And it has been our Sunday school class now since 1961. So it is in 1981.
What's 20 years?
See, what would I do without her? Okay, let's move. I would like to give you a couple of scriptural lessons that I think have been important in the growth of CUC. While they're figuring that out, I can continue. The first one is Matthew 13:34. And this is speaking about Jesus. Jesus always used stories and illustrations when speaking to the crowds. He told parables. It says, in fact, he never spoke to them without using parables. And I think we can learn from that there is a story behind every major movement in the church. And then let's go to Romans 12. This has been an important thing in the life of CUC. Romans 12, 6 through 9. God has given each one of us the ability to do certain things well. Think about that. Each one of us has been endowed with an ability to do something well. And not everybody has the same gift. So if God has given you the ability to prophesy, speak out when you have faith that God is speaking through you. If your gift is that of serving, serve then well. If you are a teacher, do a good job of teaching. If your gift is to encourage others, do it. If you have money, share it. If God has given you leadership ability, take responsibility seriously. And if you have the gift of showing kindness to others, do it gladly. Don't just pretend that you love others. Really love them. And I think those verses has helped guide CUC. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is a brief history. CUC was formed in October of 1974. And there are two couples who are still somewhat involved. Ron and Pat watch CUC on Zoom, Ron and Pat Peterson. And Sue and George Waite were also among the couples that started CUC. Now, it was not called CUC initially. It was called LTCon. And everybody has a blank look on their face. It was the LTCon class. About 12 young married couples got together, worked with the pastor, and he suggested the name. Now, the name means Friends of God. So they thought that was a wonderful name. However, when they invited people to come to LTCon, most people said, what does that mean? So after about 2 years, they got together and they changed the name of the class to Christians Under Construction. And it has been that way ever since. So if you think about it, the class was formed in 1974. So the class is now 49 years old. Next year, we should celebrate our 50th anniversary. So when we select a president for that, no, Martha Jane is already president. So Martha Jane, I think we should have a major celebration next year to celebrate the founding of the class. He's just glad he's not it. All right, let's next. We currently have 186 members. 140. Now, this is according to the official count by Dave Roberts. Okay. We have 145 active members. Then we have 16 that are inactive. And these are people who may be watching by Zoom, but they can't get to class. And then we have 25 associate members. Some of these have actually moved away, but we stay in touch with them, and some of them watch by Zoom. And we have approximately 40 single ladies, and that's the largest group, growing group in our class. And we are fortunate to have somebody who wants to use their gifts, step up and get them organized. That's Pat Ball, and she's supported by a number of other ladies. So they have an active group going on. And if you have any questions about that, ask Sandy Martin or Pat Ball. Now, this has been a kind of a guide. I see Jim smiling back there. This is one of his favorite sayings, and we have used it a lot. But this is a John Wesley saying: do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, for as long as you can. That has kind of been a motto, I think, for CUC. Okay. Now, some things that have contributed to the success of CUC. One is the participation of members in leadership. We have a number of folks that are past presidents of CUC. And every year, we agonizingly go through the nomination process, wondering where we're going to get the next president. But somebody always shows up. Okay? I think the quality of teaching is important. And I take this back. Not long after we started the CUC, one of the pastors on staff here, Evan Bergwall, became the permanent teacher of CUC. He had his PhD from Notre Dame in psychology, and he also had a theology degree. He was an avid reader, and he encouraged everybody to read. But his teaching kind of set the standard for our looking for teachers. And I think it has boded very well for us. We have caring members of the class. If something comes up of a personal nature, it seems like somebody always steps up and helps. I think the small group dinners that we had are very helpful because you get to know people in a small group setting. And when we do one, we always go around the room and we said, tell us an interesting but little known fact about you. Now we had one guy that said, I am taller than my hair. Okay. We have a person who is here today who is a pilot, and you would not think of her as being a pilot, but she is. And it's an interesting story. So the stories help you associate with those people. Then the small group participation. We have 14 small groups, and we have 103 participants in those. But there are other unorganized groups that get together. So I think just getting to know each other. The dinners that we do in the summer on Wednesday help us get together. The Wednesday night suppers, okay? Anything that gets us together. Next, Hugh. Some other things that contribute. One is communications. We owe a major debt of gratitude to Doug Tatum for what he has done over the years to get us to where we are now with communications. We owe Dave Roberts a debt of gratitude for what he does with a database and the keeping of the history so that we can review that. And then our audio team, Doug and the team, and Jeff has helped out tremendously with that.
Roger, and also Sue Wade for the weekly. Is that coming up?
Yep.
Okay,
well, I don't have it on there, but the weekly newsletter that we get keeps us in touch on a weekly basis with what's going on. And then I think refreshments help us. Now, we have gone round and round on refreshments. If you had been here about 2 or 3 years ago, let's do the refreshments thing. This is what the table would have looked like. I mean, you could have come here and grazed for an hour on the table. And we went back.
The challenge was to outdo that the following Sunday.
That's right. But it got to the point, I think we overdid it. So we decided to scale back, and we have scaled back. And I don't know if anybody came up to me and said I've lost weight as a result of that. So, but that, I think just having something there and having coffee, there's something about standing with a cup of coffee and talking to people. And so that has been a major contribution, okay? The fellowship events, think back on these. The Mardi Gras event that we did, the patriotic potluck supper, the Christmas parties, trips and special events. One of the special parties we had years ago was a tacky party. You had to come dressed tackily. And we had one person that won the prize the night we were there. She had a piece of toilet paper hanging out the back of her skirt all the way to the ground. Pretty tacky. So we had unusual parties. We had a mystery, one of those murder mystery parties one time. And then the trips that we have taken together. We have been to the Booth Museum. We've been to the Antiques Museum down in LaGrange. We've been to baseball games. Bill organized a trip to a baseball game. And we had the bus. We got there. I had never driven in that area. And we're driving along, and I find the place to let everybody out right at the gate. So everybody gets out to go in. Now I'm wondering, what do I do with this bus? So I pull up just a little bit, and there's one of the stadium attendants there. I said, look, I got 14 elderly people who I need to pick up after the game. Where can I park this bus? He said, what about right there? So he let us park right at the gate. The game was over, we came out, got on the bus and came back. But trips like, now I could have never worked that out ahead of time. Okay. But trips help us do that. And then the tour of missions that we do around Roswell, I think is helpful to people to understand that. So let's just look at some pictures here you may recognize. This is one of our potluck suppers over in the Dodd. Go ahead. Okay. Maybe this is the patriotic supper. Okay, go ahead. There's Jeff emceeing. And that was the night that we celebrated a birthday, a special birthday. We had a cake, hat, flags, and everything else for Beverly. Okay, go ahead. We had Charlotte Malone there that night. Let's go ahead. This was a Christmas party. Now, Jeff has brought some more sophistication to our picture taking, okay? But we had props for taking pictures at those, okay? And then retreats. You know, we stand up here and promote the retreat, and the person responsible for it worries the whole time about, oh, we're going to get enough people. What's the speaker going to do? Is the facility going to be okay? I cannot name one retreat that I regret going on. Not one. because it gives us a chance to be together in a relaxed atmosphere. One of our best, all of them have been great, but one of our best was at the Chick-fil-A facility at Windshape. And we did 2 there. And then they decided they would use all of that facility for marriage encounter type programs. So go ahead. The first one we did there, Jeff came, was our speaker, and he brought his unicycle with him. Okay, and he proved to us that he could ride it. The beauty of going there, though, is they had free ice cream throughout the day.
Wonderful food.
Yeah, and wonderful food. Okay, go ahead. We had, for that retreat, we had to take 2 pictures. This is half of the group, and next view. Here's the other half of the group that time. Okay, so there were big groups. Let's go to the next picture. And we can thank Nancy. We were able to get everybody at our last retreat into one picture. And Michael Cromwell led that one. Can anybody tell me the theme of that? Joy.
Joy.
Aren't you glad you were there?
You bet. That was the best.
At the end of every one, we say this is the best ever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Olympics, what they say about that. And JOY stands for what? Jesus, others, and you. Okay. You passed the first test. All right, let's move to the next one here. The Roswell United Methodist Foundation. Larry Mashburn was the driving force to establish the foundation. Larry was a financial planner, and he had a particular focus in his practice on charitable remainder trust. And it took him about 2.5 or 3 years to go from concept to reality. And Malone was never so happy as he was when Larry took that and took it from beginning to end. The foundation was started, and today there's over $5 million in the foundation, and the foundation has paid out over $1 million, almost $1.8 million. In 2008, CUC established the CUC Foundation under the auspices of RUMC. And so far we have $102,000 in that fund, and we've paid out $37,000. And we have a committee here that tracks that and is responsible for determining where the money goes. But Larry took that from conception to completion. And we owe him a debt of gratitude for doing that. And the church is significantly better off as a result of it.
And will be for years to come.
Absolutely. It has a long-term effect. All right, let's go to the next one. Missions. Missions has been a great part of this class, both local and foreign. And there are a couple of statements about mission. The first one is, in missions, what you do will affect people you will never know in places you will never go. And we can illustrate that with each one of them. I think about the first time we went to Honduras. We did an eye program to test the eyes. The local Rotary Club had equipment to test eyes, and they let us borrow it. And one of the Rotary Club members went with us and helped operate it. But we tested all the eyes of the kids in the school that we support there, plus their parents and grandparents. And the most significant one that I remember is a gentleman who was 90 years old who came in, and when they put the eye chart up, he could not read one letter on that eye chart, and they were about this big. We were fortunate enough to have glasses that we took down with us, and we had sorted them by strength. We found him a pair of glasses that allowed him to read the eye chart. Now that was just one example. A couple of other examples are, we took down computers one time. We got the used computers that had been updated through job networking. So there's a mission who supplied product for Honduras. We took those down, and we had two people who taught computer literacy who went with us. And they taught not only the teachers, but the students down there how to use those. And we left 10 laptops with them. And we went back, they had learned to use them. Okay. We had another instance where somebody took a couple of musical instruments down. And there's some kids there that really enjoyed music. So they kept those instruments, and we went back the next time they did a concert for us. So you never know. Let's go to the next one. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you back up one? This has been a kind of a motto of the mission programs we have been on. When you put everything in God's hands will be in everything. And every time we went on a mission trip, we worked diligently to lay out what we were going to do. We did it in detail. I mean, we were prepared. And we only did about 50% of that because God changed what he wanted us to do. And you have to be flexible when you do that. Okay, now the next one. Some things that we're doing right now. Bus Ministries, that's the lunch program we do over at the coffee house. Homestretch, the Drake House, foster care, North Fulton Charities, job networking, and Murphy Harms. So those are all things that we do locally and we contribute to out of our funds, and we have a significant impact in doing that. Now, I want to talk about a couple of these, go back a way, but I think they have a great message in it. When Katrina hit, we have a couple here who had lived in Louisiana and knew the territory, and they knew about the Umpqua warehouse that is down, it's Baldwin, right, Jim? And so since they had firsthand knowledge of it, they organized a trip. And I think we took about 10 people down there, and we were going to prepare personal hygiene kits.
Roger, tell people what UMCOR is.
UMCOR stands for United Methodist Committee on Relief. And when major disasters occur, they organize, they have products they can send, they send people to work. But Katrina was the most devastating thing that I have ever witnessed. We were there about 2 to 3 weeks after it hit, and I had never seen anything like that. But Jim and Linda organized a trip down there to put together these little packages. We needed a comb and a toothbrush and soap and a wash rag and several other things. And Jim agreed to get all of that donated, which he did. Now, one element in that little package was a bar of soap. Okay. And we needed 2,000 bars of soap. Now, Jim picks up on things quickly. He recognized that Shaw Skillings had been with Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble makes soap. So go to Shaw and get 2,000 bars of soap. Now, Shaw had a pretty responsible job in Procter & Gamble. So when he called up there, they recognized him immediately and they went to work. Well, when we got down to the warehouse in Louisiana, there wasn't 2,000 bars of soap. There were 200 cases of soap. 2,000 cases of soap. They had enough soap to last 3 or 4 years down there. But that's what, again, you go back to, you make your plans, but God will intervene and make the product even better. But we also, let's go back one. We sent 10 to 12 teams down there, and we must have had a total of probably 30 or 40 different people who went on teams down to help rebuild after that. And the greatest blessing was to talk to the people there about their experience, let them talk about it, and then to have something at the end of the week that shows they had made progress. Okay, now let's look at some other foreign missions. The first major foreign mission program we did was in Mexico. And we had a gentleman here who, through his work, found a prefab building that could be put together by novices like us with some professional help. So he donated the building to the church. That meant the church had to get together teams to go down to build it. And it took 6 trips with anywhere from 10 to 15 people per trip to go down. Now, we put out the word to a bishop in Laredo, in New Laredo, Mexico. And he found a parishioner who had about 3 acres of land who was willing to give it. So we had a building, they had land. That land was in the middle of nowhere. There was not anything remotely close to it. But that's the land God provided. So we went down. We sent a team down to prepare the land, and we sent a team down to do the foundation, then put up the sides and the roof. Another team went down to do the inside. And 5 teams, in effect, put that building up. Now, it was a prefab building. The Mexicans don't like buildings that shake when the wind blows, because the wind blows all the time. The next time we went down there, they had blocks that they had, cinder blocks that they had built around that building. But that building is still there. So we went down, we built the sanctuary, then we built a social salon. That is a fellowship hall. It was a separate building behind the sanctuary, and that was important to them. So that was our next thing. Then we built a caretaker's house so that they had a caretaker on site, a children's program, a playground, and we put a fence all around it. If you go to Mexico, every house has a fence around it. And you will see things stored on the roof that they don't want stolen. Okay, so a fence is important. But we had a number of teams that went down there for that. Let's go to the next one. The gentleman you see in the foreground was the pastor of the church when we went there. And a part of our program was that we wanted to go there to minister. We wanted him to come here to minister. So we financed 2 trips for him to come up here and kind of help us figure out how to reach the Hispanic population here. This is the social salon that we built. They loved it because they loved to party. And one more. We gave them this truck. And we talked to the former pastor about this time last year, and they still have that truck, and that truck still runs, and they use it. So they are resourceful people. Okay, here. Talk a little bit about Peru. We had 5 teams from the class that went to Peru. And when you go to Peru on a mission trip, you are going to the hinterlands. I mean, you are out in the boondocks. And Paul and Sarah went a number of times with John Pearson. But we had people from the class that participated in 5 trips. But I want to tell you about a tribe of Indians that were way back in the jungle, the Ashanika, you see there. Nobody had ever been to that tribe. And Arthur Ivy, who is our missionary on site down there, discovered the tribe and made some inroads with them and decided to send one of our mission crews to that village. Now that was about maybe 10 years ago. Today there is a church there. They have a local pastor that is leading that church, and they now are looking for tribes who they can go to. Let's do the next one. Now this class participated in that. This little device is called a proclaimer, and it has scripture recorded on it, and it is a solar powered device. This class provided 10 of those to the Ashanika Indians. And the next one, here is one of the Ashanika Indians with her proclaimer.
In their language.
In their language. Okay. So these are the ways that we have been involved with the Peru ministry. And we're too old to go again. It is a tough ministry. The second and third trip we went on, we had to go over a 13,000-foot peak to get down into the jungle where we were going to be. And Paul was involved in that one. Paul was kind of one of our doctors that when we had a significant case that involved mental problems, they all got referred to Paul. And he did a masterful job. Okay. Then Honduras. This came through Lunches for Learning, which we are still involved in. But we've sent 3 trips down there, and then of course COVID cut us off from going down there. But I mentioned the eye testing to you. We did some construction projects, and I have a picture that you're really going to enjoy. One of our members on the project, but we did Vacation Bible School. I told you about the computers. I told you about the musical instruments, and we had a great engagement with the teachers down there. So let's go to the, this is a picture, this is on our 3rd trip down there. We built classroom space.
Speaker, please.
Huh?
Speaker, we can't hear you.
Oh, On the third trip down, first trip was kind of do a vacation Bible school, do the eye testing. Second trip was to do a survey of other churches in the area and solidify our association with them. The third trip we did was going to be a construction trip. And we took a group of well-qualified people down to work on this construction project. But a part of that project, they had built a shelter out. And through job networking, which is another connection, Gail got skirts and blouses for all the ladies who helped prepare the food for the children. And we set it up with rope under that structure. And then we call the names of the mothers who helped prepare the food. And each one was allowed to come pick a top and a skirt for their own. One of the ladies went to Gail and said, "This is the first new outfit I have had in more than 5 years." But they were delighted to get those clothes, which were basically cast off for us. Okay. Now, the next one you'll recognize immediately, one of our more talented construction workers, Mr. Bill Scott. He was there. It appears that he is supervising what is going on there, okay? But actually, Bill worked hard. And we were building a building that would house 3 classrooms. And it took the school from an elementary school to a high school. Okay. And since then, we have been contributors to building a kitchen. Now, a kitchen is not what we visualize. A kitchen is a small room that has a place for them to wash the dishes and prepare the meals for the kids. Okay. So those are the things we've been involved in Honduras. Okay. Now, right now, with all the hurricanes that we've had and the tornadoes and everything else, we have an opportunity. We went through this about 3 or 4 years ago, and Gene and Bill and Tom and several others helped us upgrade our trailer. If you go on the back lot back here, you'll see a trailer with DARE on it. That is the trailer that went to Mississippi when we did the work down there. And it's the trailer that they will use as they make trips now to Florida, to Alabama. Oh, by the way, I heard that a tornado hit over in Alabama and it did $10,000 worth of improvements. But anyway, we are still going to be sending folks to help with that, with those programs. And that trailer is important. Now, Dave and I took that trailer on a couple of trips to get it fixed. We had the tires replaced and we had the back lights put in and new trailer hitch and all that. And I am now waiting for them to use it, Dave. Okay. Let's go to the next. God's promise. God has told us that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind has imagined what God has prepared for those who love him. And I think that is kind of the way I characterize CUC. I don't know what's coming next for us to do, but there's going to be something. And we just need to be open, ready, and most of all, available. And that's all I got to tell you today. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Tom.
One point I would like to add It's everything that you saw on there, going back to 1981. Roger Davis was involved with.
Okay.
We owe a tribute to that one person. No
Yes,
doubt.
yes. Everybody here, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Me on every word.
Right. Roger and Gail. One thing I meant to mention, that while they were heading up the evangelism program at the church here for 10 years, 5,000 new members joined RUMC while they were heading up it. 5,000. So wonderful. Okay, so a thought for the week. Garland and I attended our granddaughter's middle school honors award ceremony for outstanding students in subjects and activity areas. And things were going okay. And then the math teacher got up and said, it started off by saying, well, you know, math is the most important and outstanding subject area. And everybody said, what? What are you talking about? And she said, well, it's the only one that really counts. Have a great week.